Chosen one, the real battle does not start outside of you, it begins within. Long before a word is spoken or an action unfolds, a war begins in the quiet chambers of the mind. The attack does not arrive wearing armor or wielding visible weapons. It enters disguised as thoughts, subtle whispers that question your worth, your purpose, and your strength. It tells you you're behind, that you've failed, that your season has passed. These thoughts do not shout, they repeat softly and persistently till you start believing them. And once belief is captured, the spirit follows. That is the strategy of the unseen attack, to conquer you before the battle even begins. Before we go deeper, take a moment to stay present with me until the very end of this message. There is a truth in what you're about to hear that can free your mind from cycles that have kept you bound. And while you're here, I invite you to do something powerful. Write your warmest wishes in the comments below, followed by 777. This act may seem small, but it carries energy. When you write your wish, you are not just hoping, you are declaring alignment, inviting the universe to move in rhythm with your intentions. Words hold vibration. They attract, they shift, they manifest. So write with faith and release what you carry into light. Now, understand this, every great downfall begins with a single thought that went unchallenged. The enemy of your destiny does not need to touch your life physically to derail it. He only needs access to your mind. The war is subtle. It begins as a quiet suggestion, a passing doubt, a moment of comparison. You scroll through the lives of others and start to feel small. You remember your mistakes and feel unworthy of new beginnings. These thoughts may seem harmless, but they are the seeds of spiritual sabotage. The moment you agree with them, they begin to grow roots, wrapping around your confidence and choking your peace. The attack begins when you start believing that your delay is proof of failure, that your struggles mean you've been forgotten, that your worth is conditional, dependent on how well you perform or how others perceive you. These thoughts are not truths, they are traps. They are built to make you surrender your strength voluntarily, to make you fight yourself instead of the true enemy. And the most dangerous part, they use your own voice. The whispers disguise themselves as reason, as logic, as self-awareness, but they are lies that sound familiar. The mind is sacred ground, and what lives there shapes everything that follows. If your thoughts are corrupted, your reality will be too. That is why you must guard your inner space more fiercely than anything else. You cannot control every thought that passes through, but you can choose which ones you let stay. Some thoughts deserve no room. Some ideas must be evicted the moment they knock, because if you do not protect your mind, someone else will occupy it, and they will not build peace. Chosen one, you have felt this war before, the sudden waves of doubt that hit you out of nowhere, the heaviness that makes no sense, the inner exhaustion that feels disproportionate to what is happening around you. That is not coincidence, it is strategy. Because if the attack can control your thoughts, it can control your emotions. And if it controls your emotions, it can control your decisions. Once your decisions are altered, your destiny follows. That is why this battle is so dangerous. It hides behind ordinary thoughts that carry extraordinary consequences. But here's the truth. The power of thought can both destroy and rebuild. The same mind that can trap you is the same mind that can free you. It is not your enemy, it is your weapon. The key is awareness. The moment you recognize a thought as an intruder, it begins to lose power. Awareness breaks the illusion, that whisper that says, "You are not enough." It loses its hold when you remember how many storms you've already survived, the voice that says, "You are alone." It weakens when you look back at every time you were carried through what should have broken you. Awareness turns attack into awakening. This is why the darkness targets your thoughts first, because it knows that the one who controls their focus controls their future. If your mind is filled with fear, you cannot hear intuition. If it is filled with doubt, you cannot receive guidance. The attack thrives in confusion, in distraction, in exhaustion. It makes you question your instincts until you no longer trust yourself. But your power begins the moment you remember that not every thought is yours. Some are invitations meant to be declined. You must learn to guard your mental gates. Not every voice deserves entry. When a thought comes that drains your peace, it is not truth, it is intrusion. When it tells you to give up, to compare, to settle, to shrink, recognize it for what it is, a strike against your identity. Do not reason with it, do not argue with it, replace it. Replace it with words of alignment, with thoughts that remind you of who you are. Every time you replace a lie with truth, the attack weakens. And there is something else. The battlefield of the mind is not a one-time fight. It is daily, subtle, ongoing. You will not always feel strong. There will be days when intrusive thoughts are loud, when the silence feels like defeat. But those moments are not failure. They are training. Every time you redirect a thought, you are rewiring your strength. Every time you choose focus over fear, you are rebuilding your fortress. This is how warriors are forged, not through ease, but through discipline. So when the next wave of dark thoughts comes, do not panic. Pause, breathe. Remember that they are echoes, not prophecies. You are not obligated to believe everything that enters your mind. You are not your fear, your doubt, or your mistakes. You are the awareness behind them. An awareness cannot be attacked, it can only be distracted. Once you reclaim that focus, the war begins to lose its power. The mind will always reflect what you feed it faith, and it will generate resilience. Feed it gratitude, and it will produce peace. Feed it self-blame, and it will create torment. The energy you choose becomes the environment you live in. This is why the most dangerous attacks are invisible. They teach you to participate in your own destruction by the way you think. But you can choose differently. You can turn every dark thought into fuel, every doubt into drive, every fear into focus. The moment you begin to master your thoughts, the attack begins to crumble. It cannot survive in awareness. It cannot thrive in a mind that refuses to host it. The war may continue, but it will no longer control you, because once you learn to think from alignment rather than reaction, every thought becomes a weapon of light. And when that shift happens, when your thoughts begin to align with truth, with clarity, with divine purpose, your entire reality begins to transform. The attack that once ruled you becomes powerless. The darkness that once drained you becomes your proof that you were always the light. And the mind that once betrayed you becomes the foundation of your freedom. The most dangerous attacks are the ones that look like your own reflection. They disguise themselves as your inner voice, slipping into your thoughts so quietly that you cannot tell where they began. You start to replay mistakes that ended long ago, you revisit conversations that no longer matter, and you entertain fears that do not belong to the present. These are not just passing thoughts, they are weapons, carefully aimed to make you doubt yourself. Because if the mind can be made to turn against you, no external enemy is needed. And the attack wins long before a battle is seen. It starts with subtle suggestions. You're behind. You're not good enough. No one really understands you. Each phrase is designed to sound reasonable, even true. But these are not insights, they are interruptions. Their purpose is to pull your focus from what empowers you to what exhausts you. Every time you accept one of these ideas as truth, it digs a little deeper, planting roots of limitation that begin to shape how you see the world. And the longer those roots stay, the harder it becomes to tell the difference between what's real and what's been planted to destroy your peace. This is why awareness is so powerful. Awareness turns light on in the room where darkness has been hiding. When you can identify the attack, it loses its disguise. You begin to realize that not every thought deserves your attention, that not every idea deserves to grow. Some thoughts were never meant to be entertained, they were meant to be rejected at the door. But you must be awake enough to notice them, alert enough to recognize the shift in your inner atmosphere when something foreign enters. Guarding your mind is not about control, it is about observation. It is about watching your thoughts without letting them define you. Imagine your thoughts as passing clouds. Some are bright, some are dark, but none of them are the sky itself. You are the sky. You are the space they pass through. And no matter how many clouds come, the sky is never harmed. This is the key. Thoughts only have the power you give them. The ones you ignore drift away. The ones you nurture become storms. The attack grows stronger in silence, in the moments you allow unchallenged negativity to echo. That is why reflection without correction is dangerous. You can think deeply about your life without tearing yourself apart. You can remember what hurt you without reopening the wound. Growth is not about avoiding pain, it is about refusing to make a home for it in your mind. The longer you replay pain, the deeper it anchors itself into your identity. The longer you repeat old fears, the louder they become. And remember, the mind is creative. It multiplies whatever you feed it. A single thought of doubt left unchecked becomes a network of reasons to give up. A single thought of courage can spark a chain of actions that rebuild your entire life. This is why the attack starts with your thoughts, because that is where creation begins. Every invention, every story, every destiny starts as a thought. Whoever controls that ground controls the outcome. But you can reclaim it. You can rebuild the inner walls of your mind so that they hold only what belongs there. This requires discipline, the kind that notices when negativity slips in and gently replaces it with alignment. It does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means refusing to allow darkness to narrate your life. It means reminding yourself that you are not your doubts. You are not your fears. You are the consciousness that watches them rise and fade. And once you know that, you are free. The attack loses its hold when you learn to replace rather than react. Instead of saying, "I'm not enough," you say, "I am growing stronger every day." Instead of thinking, "I'm alone," you remember how connection always finds you when you stay open. These are not empty affirmations, they are course corrections. Each new thought you plant reclaims territory that once belonged to the attack. Each word of alignment strengthens your inner foundation until the whispers that once ruled you become faint echoes of a battle already won. Understand this deeply. The mind is a gateway, not a prison. The key has always been in your awareness, and awareness is something no attack can steal. It can only distract. The more present you become, the less power those invading thoughts have. You can feel them enter, you can watch them pass, but they cannot stay unless you invite them. That is the level of power you carry. The battle begins with thoughts, but victory begins with choice, so train your focus. Guard your peace. Question the voice that speaks in discouragement, because once you master the inner space, no outside force can move you. The attack can begin in your thoughts, but it cannot end there unless you let it. The most underestimated weapon of any attack is repetition. The same thoughts that once arrived as whispers begin to circle back day after day until they sound like truth. You wake up and they are already there, reminding you of every failure, every delay, every uncertainty. They replay like background noise, so constant that you no longer notice how much they shape your mood. This is how the attack grows, not by force, but by familiarity. It learns your patterns, studies your weaknesses, and imitates your own voice until you cannot tell the difference between your intuition and your intrusion. That is why breaking the cycle requires more than positive thinking. It requires awareness, discipline, and presence. You cannot simply replace every dark thought with a shallow affirmation. You must understand where the thought came from, why it found a home in your mind, and what wound it is feeding from. Every recurring negative thought is attached to an old story you keep replaying. Maybe it's the memory of rejection, maybe it's the echo of a mistake, maybe it's the silence after a prayer you thought went unheard. Those thoughts build homes inside the spaces you never healed. The attack hides there because pain left unhealed becomes an open door. You must begin to close those doors one by one. That means forgiving yourself for the past that no longer exists. That means releasing people who still live in your head rent-free, whose voices echo in your decisions even though they are no longer in your life. That means confronting the fears you keep trying to outrun. The attack feeds on avoidance. The moment you turn to face what scares you, it begins to starve. You disarm it by acknowledgement. But this process is not instant. The attack will push back as you begin to reclaim your peace. It will make you feel tired for no reason, restless in moments of calm, anxious when things finally start improving. It will whisper that you are going in circles, that nothing is changing, that this battle will never end. But remember this, the closer you are to freedom, the louder the noise becomes. The mind resists change because it is designed to protect what is familiar, even if what is familiar is toxic. That resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that transformation is happening. As you rebuild your mental landscape, you will notice something powerful: silence. Not the heavy silence of confusion, but the calm silence that comes from clarity. The mind becomes quieter when it is no longer fighting itself. You stop arguing with your thoughts and start observing them. You stop reacting to every intrusive idea and begin choosing what deserves your focus. That calm is not weakness, it is power. It is the sound of the attack losing ground. Every moment you choose peace over panic, awareness over reaction, you are winning. The war in your thoughts may feel endless, but victory does not come all at once. It comes in waves. It comes when you choose not to spiral after a single dark thought. It comes when you forgive yourself for falling into old habits. It comes when you pause before believing every fear that crosses your mind. These small moments are not minor, they are sacred. They are the quiet revolutions that free you. And soon you begin to notice how different the world looks when your mind is no longer your enemy. The same circumstances remain, but your perception shifts. You see patterns where you once saw chaos. You feel gratitude where you once felt exhaustion. You begin to understand that your power was never about control, it was about awareness. The attack wanted you to forget who the observer was, to make you identify with the noise, but now you know you are not the storm, you are the sky. From this awareness comes authority. Once you recognize that thoughts are guests, not rulers, you reclaim your mind as sacred space. You choose what enters, what stays, and what must go. You learn to think intentionally, to shape your inner dialogue with precision. And with that shift, your energy changes, your words change, your reality begins to mirror your new clarity. This is how transformation begins, not through force, but through understanding. The attack may still knock, but it will no longer find you unguarded. You have learned the pattern, and that knowledge is power. The war started in your thoughts, but the victory starts in your awareness. And awareness cannot be destroyed, it can only awaken. The moment you start reclaiming your thoughts, the battle shifts. The attack does not disappear, it adapts. It realizes it can no longer dominate through loudness, so it turns subtle. It begins to disguise itself as logic, as practicality, as just being realistic. Suddenly what once sounded like fear now sounds like reason. You tell yourself you are simply protecting yourself from disappointment, when in truth, you are repeating an old defense mechanism taught by pain. The attack no longer has to shout lies, it only needs to whisper limits. This is how the mind is tricked into building walls instead of bridges. Every "I can't," "I shouldn't," or "it's too late" becomes a brick. You believe you're being wise, cautious, of course, mature. But deep inside, those walls keep you from stepping into the very future you have prayed for. You start labeling your hesitation as patience, your fear as logic, and your procrastination as peace. The attack thrives in this confusion because it knows if you cannot tell the difference between wisdom and worry, you will stay trapped, thinking you're protecting yourself, while actually imprisoning your own potential. And here is where the shift must happen. You must learn to test every thought before you trust it. Ask yourself, does this thought expand me or shrink me? Does it bring peace or pressure? Does it come from faith or from fear? These questions are not small, they are the filters that reveal the true nature of what enters your mind. Because not every thought deserves authority, and not every idea deserves belief. You were not meant to accept every mental visitor. You were meant to discern which ones come to build and which ones come to break. The attack will try to convince you that questioning your thoughts is overthinking. But it is not. It is mastery. The moment you start observing your mind instead of obeying it, you take back control. You are no longer reacting, you are responding. You begin to feel the space between stimulus and response widening. And in that space lives your freedom. You start realizing that just because a thought feels real does not make it true. Feelings are powerful, but they are not facts. You will also notice that the thoughts that come to attack you often sound urgent. They tell you something must be done now, that you're running out of time, that if you don't act or decide immediately, you'll lose everything. This is not intuition. This is pressure disguised as purpose. True guidance is calm. It doesn't rush. It resonates. The attack wants panic because panic clouds perception. The moment you rush, you stop listening. But when you breathe, pause, and observe, the truth becomes clear again. As you continue this journey of awareness, you will begin to separate your inner voices. One voice will always point toward alignment. It is grounded, gentle, consistent. The other will push you toward fear. It is loud, chaotic, and inconsistent. The more time you spend in silence, the easier it becomes to recognize which one is speaking. Silence is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is the only space where your true voice can rise above the noise. The more clarity you gain, the more the attack weakens. Thoughts that once felt like anchors begin to dissolve. The phrases that once triggered pain start to lose meaning. It's not that they disappear entirely, it's that they no longer carry authority. You will hear them, but they will pass through you like wind through open doors. They no longer stick because you no longer believe them. That is the power of detachment. You stop wrestling with lies, and they lose the energy to persist. And then comes peace, the kind that is not dependent on circumstances. You stop needing proof that everything will work out because you already know it will. You stop seeking constant reassurance because your foundation no longer shifts with every wave of doubt. You begin to live from a deeper knowing, one that whispers, "You are safe," even when everything outside feels uncertain. That knowing is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is what happens when your thoughts finally begin to serve you instead of sabotage you. By this stage, the attack is still there, but it is powerless. It can only watch as you walk through thoughts that used to control you untouched and unbothered. You no longer run from the noise because you recognize it as background static. You understand that your peace is not fragile. It is your natural state. The attack cannot survive where awareness lives, and you are more aware now than ever before. The battle began with your thoughts, but now your thoughts have become your armor. What once wounded you now teaches you. What once weakened you now strengthens you. This is the transformation the attack never expected, you turning the battlefield into sacred ground. When awareness deepens, something profound begins to happen. You stop identifying with the noise inside your head, and instead, you start identifying with the silence that observes it. At this stage, the war does not disappear, but its power changes shape. You begin to understand that the attack on your thoughts was never truly about the thoughts themselves. It was about your attention. Whatever holds your attention controls your direction. And now for the first time, your attention belongs fully to you. You start noticing that most thoughts are not even personal. They are echoes of the collective mind, fragments of energy from the world around you, society, fear, the past, other people's expectations. They move through your awareness like passing frequencies, but they are not you. You see that you have been absorbing noise that was never yours to carry. And when you realize this, your spirit expands. You no longer feel threatened by negativity because you recognize it as passing weather, not your climate. In this advanced stage of awareness, even pain begins to transform. Instead of running from it, you observe it. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" You begin to understand that pain is not punishment, it is purification. Every dark thought, every anxious spiral, every moment of confusion has been showing you what still needs healing. The attack was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to wake you up. Without it, you would have never learned to guard your mind, to stand in your center, to build a fortress of peace within chaos. This kind of clarity does not come through ease, it comes through endurance. You have faced the storm of your thoughts and learned that you are the observer, not the noise. Now, even when fear speaks, you hear it differently. You no longer panic, you listen. You feel its presence, acknowledge it, and let it pass. You no longer resist it because you no longer believe it. Resistance fed the battle. Acceptance ends it. When you stop fighting your thoughts and start understanding them, you remove their power. And then something extraordinary happens. The space between thoughts begins to widen. In that stillness, you feel peace that no external condition can touch. It is not excitement, not relief, but a quiet certainty that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You no longer try to force the mind to be silent, it becomes silent on its own. You begin to operate from presence, not from panic. Every decision you make feels lighter. Every word you speak carries intention. Every moment feels alive with meaning. This is alignment in its purest form. Thought, energy, and spirit working as one. At this level of awareness, you begin to see how much power has always lived within you. You no longer need to chase validation because your worth is no longer negotiable. You no longer seek control because you trust the flow of timing. The same mind that once attacked you has now become a sacred instrument tuned to peace. You begin to use your thoughts not as weapons of destruction, but as tools of creation. What you focus on, you manifest. What you release, you transcend. You are no longer surviving the battlefield, you are shaping it. And when negative thoughts come, and they still will, you smile. Not because you are dismissing them, but because you recognize them for what they are. Old shadows testing if you still believe in their power. You acknowledge them, and then you choose differently. That choice, again and again, is the mark of mastery. You are no longer the warrior fighting in darkness. You are the light that reveals the battlefield itself. The mind once felt like a cage, but now it feels like an open sky. The same thoughts that once wounded you now pass through like clouds, unable to leave a trace. You are no longer defined by emotion, you are guided by awareness. And from this place, the attack has no ground left to stand on. It began with your thoughts, but it ends with your awakening. When awareness becomes your home, the attack ends not with noise, but with peace. The mind that once turned against you now serves you, quiet and loyal. You no longer chase silence, you are silence. Thoughts still come and go, but none of them hold the power to wound. You've learned that mastery is not about controlling the storm, but standing untouched within it. You are no longer reacting, you are creating. The attack that began in your thoughts has been transformed into strength. What once whispered fear now fuels purpose. You have taken back the territory of your mind, and with it, your destiny. From here, every thought becomes intention, every intention becomes creation. You move forward calm, clear, and centered, unshaken by noise, guided by awareness. The war began in your thoughts, but it ends here, with peace that cannot be taken and light that will not fade. Peace does not mean the absence of thought, it means the absence of attachment. You have learned to let thoughts move through you like wind through trees, no longer clinging, no longer fighting. The same mind that once imprisoned you has become a sanctuary, a sacred garden where only truth is allowed to grow. You understand now that thoughts are messengers, not masters. They arrive, they speak, and they leave, but you remain. You are the witness, the calm beneath every wave. This is the freedom you were always searching for, to think without being consumed, to feel without being drowned, to exist without the constant need to fight yourself. What once began as an attack has turned into awakening. The battlefield has become your classroom. Every doubt taught you faith. Every fear taught you focus. Every thought that tried to destroy you became the proof of how strong you are now.